Hello and welcome back to Tag, the Assassin's Game by the one with many names. This is Chapter 5, the final chapter. There were no deaths on the second night, nor on the way to classes. Still, things were tense between the 5 remaining players. Just as the homeroom bell rang, Izuku dropped from the vent in the ceiling directly onto his chair, as had become custom. "You have got to teach me how to do that," Shinsou pleaded from their seat directly behind him. The greenhead gave a little chuckle, but didn't answer as Aizawa-sensei's eyes swept over the room, silently taking attendance. Homeroom wasn't technically safe, because Sensei wouldn't intervene in the game unless someone came uncomfortably close to dying, but had become a bit of a gray area. Nobody wanted to interrupt Aizawa-sensei's announcements to start a fight, even if it was a school-sanctioned one. That would just be awkward. The unsteady peace held through first period too, whether that was because everybody was too alert or to make up for President Mike's last English lesson. Izuku couldn't say, but the last two aisles were tense. 4 out of 5 of the last players remaining were seated on that side of the room, just out of reach of each other. All of them were constantly vigilant for stray earjacks, dark shadow, or black whips. Surprisingly, it was Sue, clear on the other side of the room, that broke first. As everybody was bringing out the homework problems Ectoplasm had assigned on paper because he wanted to see their full thought process, there was a loud thwip and a sudden slam. Sue had thrown out her tongue at Jiro's ribbon, which she had placed on her right ear like a cuff, and Jiro had speared her earjack right through the frog's tongue to pin it on to the table on reflex. A full beat of silence passed. Then Jiro's left jack dived towards Sue to retaliate. She tried to block it, but it was too flexible, and with her tongue pinned, she could only pull away so far. Eventually, the ribbon emerged from the struggle, firmly in the grasp of Jiro's jacks. The two girls untangled themselves, and Sue's tongue dripped quite a bit of blood from where it had been punctured. "Yeah, I didn't think that would work, Kiro, but I had to give it a shot." Sue got dismissed to Recovery Girl's office, handkerchief pressed to tongue, and someone produced wet wipes to clean up the blood trailing across the classroom. The 4 remaining players stared at each other, gaze fixed on Jiro's still bloody earlobe. With Hagakure at his left peripheral and Tokoyami on his right, Izuku was feeling distinctly unsafe. With a crackle of lightning that had everyone in the immediate area scattering, minus Bakugo, he pulled himself into the vents. "I'll listen to the lectures from here, thanks," he said. Ectoplasm was mostly okay with that, but apparently knocking on the metal to stimulate a hand raise was startling, and actually answering from inside the vents was creepy, so he was politely asked to stop. Luckily for him, there was just enough space in there to take notes and eat, so he ate lunch early. After everybody else scattered for lunch and he had tucked his empty bento away in the little cubby he found, he took some time to explore the maze of vents. Most of it was uninteresting, either empty classrooms with students' things or classes in session because they had the students' lunch block. There were a couple Most of it was uninteresting, either empty classrooms with students' things or classes in session because they had the second lunch block. There were a couple students taking lunch in their classrooms, and a third year nearly spotted him, but it wasn't until he saw a dark classroom that he stopped. The blinds had been drawn, and all the desks had been pushed to the side of the room. It was completely void of students or their things, except Tokoyami, who sat at the far side of the room, watching the door and eating an apple. It would have been an excellent strategic position if not for being almost directly below the vent. Izuku couldn't have asked for a better setup. He dropped out of the ceiling, knocking Tokoyami over on the way down, and pulled the boy's ribbon from his blazer as he rolled forward to disperse momentum. Dark Shadow began to freak out in response to the spike in adrenaline, so he flashed full cowl at the highest he was willing to go within the spare classroom. Holding Tokoyami's name tag in front of his face helped to calm the other as he realized what was going on. They reported the death to Aizawa-sensei, and Fumikage thanked him for a good game. Dark Shadow even apologized for trying to attack him outside the bounds of the exercise, and apparently she found him scary. Yes, Tokuyami confirmed, terrifying and ethereal, like an archangel sent from above to smite the demons among men. So that was cool. After lunch, they had foundational heroics, and unlike Monday's purely theoretical lesson, today they were doing 2v2 spars. When the next match was announced as Hagakure and Yairozu versus Jiro and Bakugo, Izuku just about winced. He knew where this was going. The match started, and Jiro obviously targeted the invisible girl. Bakugo had rushed Momo, who quickly pulled a SWAT shield and then dropped a flashbang out of her thigh, kicking it towards the other pair to aid her ally. The flashbang blinded and deafened Jiro temporarily, and Hagakure used the time to drop her gloves and shoes to move out of view. Her ribbon would still give her away, but the pile of clothes was a good distraction. Between her ears still ringing and her partner's explosions, Jiro couldn't hear the invisible girl's heartbeat, and as Jiro's blurry eyes focused on the pile of clothes, Hagakure was able to sneak up behind her and grab her ribbon. In the end, Jiro was able to wrap the invisible girl in capture tape, and Bakugo overwhelmed Momo, but by the rules of the game, Hagakure had killed her. So it was down to just two players, Izuku and Toru. Hagakure's MO seemed to be fairly simple. Sneak up on a target that is preoccupied or otherwise distracted and kill them before they could figure out she's behind them. With that in mind, Izuku moved his ribbon more towards the center of his chest, so she'd have to reach around farther to grab it. The easiest way to figure out where in the room she was had proven to be air displacement, but she had had that move pulled on her in class exercises frequently enough she knew how to avoid any sort of smoke or colored glass, so fans it was. Izuku set himself up in one of the gyms, not an unusual place to find him, and kept his back to the door, the perfect bait. After about an hour of switching between mindless reps of a few of his normal cooldown exercises, he felt it. The steady stream of air pressure at his back was interrupted. He switched back over to squats and kept his eyes on the wall as he sensed Hagakure move closer and closer. Finally, he felt the slight heat of her arm reach over his shoulder and struck quick as a viper. He grabbed her wrist a little higher up her arm than that. Actually, she was closer than he thought, and as he pushed up on his squat, pulled her over his shoulder. Somewhat reminiscent of the move he used on Bakugo in their first hero exercise. He reached down, plucked her name tag off her hero costume, and feeling a little cheeky, finished his set of squats with her lying on the floor in front of him. Oh, how can I be upset with a view like that? What? He squeaked, blushing like a strawberry. I'm just saying, you've got a nice bottom, Midoriya. I'm the bottom, actually, he fired back immediately, instantly regretting it as she burst into laughter. Please don't tell anybody I said that. Oh, you know, I have to tell everyone you said that. He blinked her. He helped her up, waving the ribbon at the camera. The light blinked a short pattern in acknowledgement. He knew Nezu wouldn't pass up the chance to watch the final of this. I hope this exercise has proven informative, because at the start of your second year, you choose specialties. Most of you have already decided which branch of heroics you wanted to specialize in, but now that you've got a taste of them all, limelight, underground, rescue, and intelligence, some of you may have found unexpected talents. As Sensei's eyes slid across the room, lingering on Izuku. Still, if you're dead set on underground, but didn't do as well in the exercise you would have hoped, come see me. We can set up some more personalized training to get you where you want to be, plus ultra and all that. He wrote the final scores on the board. Yuga Aoyama, 0 points. Rikita Sato, 2 points. Tenya Ida, 3 points. Hanta 0, 4 points. Mina Ashido, 69 points. Katsuki Bakugo, 90 points. Mashiro Ojiro, 101 points. Mezu Shoji, 112 points. Suyu Asui, 198 points. Denki Kaminari, 300 points and 1 kill. Edro Kirishima, 301 points, 1 kill. Shoto Todoroki, 312 points and 1 kill. Ochaka Uraraka, 329 points and 1 kill. Momo Yayurozu, 345 points and 1 kill. Shinsou Hitoshi, 426 points and 1 kill. Fumakage Tokoyami, 506 points and 1 kill. Koji Koda, 710 points and 2 kills. Toro Hagakure, 826 points and 2 kills. Kyoko Jiro, 1,117 points and 3 kills. Izuku Midoriya, 2,726 points and 5 kills. That is all for the fic T.A.G, the Assassin's Game by the one with many names. Please go check out their fic on AO3 and give them comments and kudos for this incredible fic. And that will be all. If you have any recommendations for fics that you would like me to podfic, please put them in the description and I'll get in contact with the author.